Episode 57 BZ, January 18, 2025 German party positions ahead of the February snap election. In episode 57 BZ, One World and United States Fed quits global climate network ahead of Trump presidency. 2 United States, 9 Western states with 9th Circuit Appeals Court in California, San Francisco. Why Trump's second-term agenda could hinge on the court he hates the most. Once again, an incoming Trump White House is likely to clash with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 9th Circuit, but the court in San Francisco has changed since 2017. 3 United States scientists, Trump-targeted scientists, in his first term this time, their prepared agencies and unions have put in place new guardrails designed to limit political interference in government research. For Europe and Elon Musk, EU expands investigation of X over spread of illicit content. The probe is a test of the European Union's willingness to go after X owner Elon Musk, whose geopolitical influence has grown because of his ties to the incoming Trump administration. The European Union started an investigation of Elon Musk X more than a year ago. 5 Germany's elections. Here is what the major parties promise voters. Rosef view of German public television predictions of the German snap elections starting at 33:18 minutes on this video, released January 17, 2025. 6 China TikTok ban. Will President-elect Trump stop the law from taking effect? It is unclear if Trump, who has previously said he will spare the social media platform, will or can stop the ban. President-elect Trump could attempt to instruct the government not to enforce the law, potentially through an executive order. Main content. One World and United States Fed quits global climate network ahead of Trump presidency. Federal Reserve Bank officials said the decision to leave the network came after the group's work had increasingly broadened in scope. The Federal Reserve said Friday that it was dropping out of a network of central banks and other financial regulators focused on climate change. Excerpts edited by Rosef for brevity and clarity. And relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates of 501c3. Nonprofit organization. The New York Times reported from Washington January 17, 2025, the Federal Reserve has withdrawn from a network of global financial regulators focused on climate risk. Days before President-elect Trump returns to power, the central bank announced that it was formally joining the network in December 2020, shortly after President Biden was elected. Republicans, who worry that increased attention to climate risk by financial regulators could have harmful impacts on American bank customers. The group, known as the Network of Central Banks and Supervisors for Greening the Financial System, exists to help central banks and other regulators exchange ideas and research as they figure out how to account for climate-related risks in the financial sector. The network also aims to mobilize mainstream finance to support the transition toward a sustainable economy. 5 members of the Fed's Board of Governors voted to withdraw from the network, including Fed Chair Jerome H. Powell. 2 members abstained, including Michael Barr, who recently announced that he would step down from his role February 28, 2025. The central bank's move to join the network was seen as a sign of its recognition that the Fed had to begin taking into account the impact of extreme weather events as they occur more frequently and pose a greater risk to the financial system. The Fed had been participating in the network informally for more than a year before it officially joined. Days before the Fed formally became a member, a group of Republican lawmakers expressed skepticism about the Fed's involvement with the network. Its recommendations could significantly limit access to capital for crucial industries and place harmful restrictions on regulated entities, the Republican lawmakers wrote in a letter to Fed officials in December 2020. 2 United States, 9 Western states with 9th Circuit Appeals Court in California, San Francisco. Why Trump's second-term agenda could hinge on the court he hates the most. Once again, an incoming Trump White House is likely to clash with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 9th Circuit, but the court in San Francisco has changed since 2017. The United States Court of Appeals in San Francisco is the largest of the country's 12 regional appeals jurisdictions. The 9th Circuit covers 9 Western states and 2 territories. Rosef view United States federal courts of appeals. There are 13 appellate courts that sit below the U.S. Supreme Court, and they are called U.S. Courts of Appeals. The appellate court task is to determine whether the law was applied correctly in the trial court or federal administrative agency. District courts, the nation's 94 district or trial courts, are called U.S. District Courts. District courts resolve disputes by determining the facts and applying the law to those facts. Excerpts edited by Rosef for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, January 17, 2025. Trump will push executive orders expected to curtail unleash oil and gas drilling. The famously liberal U.S. Court of Appeals for the 9th Circuit is where progressive lawyers repeatedly persuaded a court dominated by judges nominated by Democratic presidents to stymie much of the Trump agenda during his first term. The Trump team has had years to plan for the fight, sure to take place. Trump arguments could receive a warmer reception now that 10 of the appeals court's 29 judgeships have been filled with Trump nominees. The 9th Circuit is the largest of the country's 12 regional appeals courts in terms of judges population and square miles. Its sprawling jurisdiction covers 9 western states, including the technology hub of Silicon Valley. Most of the states within the 9th Circuit have Democratic governors and attorneys general, making the court a crucial referee for state challenges to policies from any Republican White House. California alone filed more than 100 suits during the Trump first term. Democratic attorneys general from western states won a number of victories in the circuit that slowed or even stopped some of the Trump agenda. The 9th Circuit figures largely in the opposition's emerging and second term legal strategies as well. During the next 4 years, there is going to be a lot of litigation, promised the president and chief executive of democracy forward. Appellate courts have the power to uphold or overturn trial court rulings on the legality of administration policies. Appeals court procedural decisions could mean the difference between the swift and decisive action that Trump has promised and what happened in Trump first term. The number of 9th Circuit trial court judges matters. 88 of those judges were chosen by Democratic presidents and 21 were chosen by Republicans, but the legal terrain changed since 2017. A key Trump ally now is the America First Legal Foundation, run by Stephen Miller, a Trump deputy chief of staff. The Supreme Court, with its 6-3 conservative supermajority and 3 Trump nominees, will still have the last word on any appeal case it chooses from the 9th Circuit. The 9th Circuit has changed as well. Trump judicial appointments tightened the balance on the appeals court from an 18-7 split between Democratic and Republican nominees in 2017 to a 16-13 divide today. Other appellate courts will also be called on to examine Trump policies. New England's First Circuit, the 4th Circuit in the South Atlantic region, and the D.C. Circuit all have majorities of Democratic nominees. Between 2005 and 2016, any senator of any state could effectively veto the nomination of any circuit court judge in their home state, a power they still hold for district court judges. 3 United States scientists, Trump-targeted scientists, in his first term this time. They are prepared. Agencies and unions have put in place new guardrails designed to limit political interference in government research. Virginia Burkett is a senior scientist at the Interior Department who during the first Trump term 2016 to 2020 filed the whistleblower complaint against Trump administration efforts to dismantle government science. ROSEP view, United States research scientists have prepared themselves if the second Trump administration follows through on threats to stop scientific research on climate change. The list includes government whistleblower protection, government union protection, government scientific integrity officials, and outside legal protection. ROSEP view, why is ROSEP concerned with attacks on the scientific truth of climate change? The arguments for stopping indoor residential wood burning rest on scientific facts about wood burning emissions and their contribution to climate change, as well as scientific facts about public health concerns related to wood burning taken from research that shows that wood burning is 90% PM2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early death. Scientific facts also disprove the scientifically debunked theory of carbon neutrality of wood burning, which currently, despite scientific facts but with political promotion, allows each country in the world to ignore the emissions from wood burning to be counted when calculating whether each nation in the world is meeting its United Nations climate goals of reducing total harmful emissions, but with wood smoke emissions allowed to be ignored. This scientifically debunked theory is applied through political maneuvering to all forms of biomass industrial wood burning, and this scientifically debunked theory trickles down to support through its lies toleration of and continuation of air-polluting indoor residential wood burning when truly clean renewables such as wind, solar, and geothermal are available and increasingly cheaper to the consumer and economical overall. In 2025, excerpts edited by ROSEP for brevity and clarity. And Relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, January 17, 2025. During the first Trump administration, Virginia Burkett, a senior government scientist, felt like she had a target on her back. She fought attempts by Trump officials to eliminate climate research programs, while also rejecting the request that she alter the nation's premier report on how global warming affects every region of the country. But Dr. Burkett says she paid a price in a whistleblower complaint. She said the Trump administration retaliated by demoting her and removing her as chair of the committee overseeing the report. Her experience was part of a broad assault on science across the federal government. During the first Trump administration, other scientists were also demoted or reassigned. Projects were disrupted and scientists were pressured to delete their research or were blocked from publicizing it. In the end, hundreds of scientists and experts in environmental policy left the government, but Dr. Burkett was reinstated to a senior position by the Biden administration and has remained in federal service along with thousands of others. And with Trump about to return to the White House, they have pushed for new policies and procedures to guard against political interference. I am most concerned about protecting future scientists from the harms that I faced, she said, echoing the views of about 24 current and former government scientists and policy officials interviewed for this article. One senior government official who works in science and spoke on the condition of anonymity out of fear of retaliation by the Trump administration said career employees had started building a firewall 4 years ago. We have been preparing since day one of the Biden administration to better protect science and scientists. The official said steps taken include the creation and expansion of scientific integrity policies at many federal agencies that detail how government scientists should conduct and publish research, what to do if political appointees try to block that work, and outline the penalties for violations. Scientific integrity officers have been newly installed at several agencies to enforce the policies, and new union contracts carry consequences for political appointees who retaliate against scientists for following the policies. The goal is to shine a bright public spotlight on the work of government scientists and to guard against any efforts to suppress or manipulate it. Republicans on the House Oversight Committee are seeking emails and other communications between top officials at the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Health and Human Services. Trump, who has called the established science of human-caused global warming a hoax, has promised to erase limits on tailpipe and smokestack pollution soon after he is sworn in. Hell stripped the phrases climate change and clean energy from every agency website. People working on his transition have prepared a slate of executive orders to reorient the government away from climate change, including withdrawing the United States from the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement signed by nearly every country. Trump allies are also discussing moving the EPA headquarters and the agency's 7,000 workers out of Washington. During his first term, the administration moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado and relocated 2 scientific research arms of the Department of Agriculture to Kansas, leading to an exodus of employees. During the Obama administration, the White House directed government agencies to create scientific integrity policies, laying out standard practices and processes for government scientists to follow. President Biden built on that, instructing agencies to expand and strengthen the policies to ban improper political interference and prevent the suppression or distortion of scientific or technological findings, data, information, conclusions, or technical results. The Biden White House also directed every cabinet agency to designate a chief science officer and scientific integrity officials to enforce the policies. Today, there are more than 30 scientific integrity officials. The White House directive requires that these officials be career civil servants, not political appointees. A 2023 memorandum from the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy defines scientific integrity to mean that research is peer-reviewed, that scientists must be able to openly express dissent without fear of retaliation, and that violations of scientific integrity policies should be treated as seriously as violations of government ethics rules and come with consequences. White House officials concede that nothing would stop future administrations from erasing or disregarding those policies. At the U.S. Geological Survey, scientists are to report suspected misconduct to the agency inspector general, an independent watchdog, rather than to senior agency officials who are usually appointed by the president. The Union of Concerned Scientists and Advocacy Group sent a letter signed by 2,405 scientists to Congress asking members to stand up against attempts to politicize or eliminate scientific roles, agencies, and federal research that protect our health, environment, and our communities. Representative Paul Tonko, Democrat of New York and a member of the House Science Committee, plans to introduce legislation to require government agencies to maintain and enforce scientific integrity policies, but the prospects for passage seem dim in the current Republican majority. Congress employees at some agencies have used labor contracts to lock in new protections. A new union contract for employees at the Department of Agriculture Economic Research Service, which was relocated to Kansas from Washington during the first Trump term, says that scientific findings cannot be altered by managers, non-scientists, or public relations staff, and can be freely communicated outside the agency without political influence. At the National Institutes of Health, where many employees were distressed by the way the Trump administration understated the risks of COVID early in the pandemic, a union contract, finalized this month, says that any changes to the scientific integrity policy must be approved by union negotiators at the EPA. Union contract finalized in June 2024 allows employees to file a grievance if they have experienced retaliation for reporting scientific misconduct. It says any employee who faces retaliation for adhering to the policy can seek a legally binding decision from an independent arbiter. The nonprofit organization, the Climate Science Legal Defense Fund, offers free legal counsel to climate scientists. In December, the group offered packed workshops at the annual conference of the American Geophysical Union, a gathering in Washington of about 25,000 Earth and space scientists from around the world. Compared to the first Trump administration, government scientists are now more comfortable coming to us and using our legal assistance, taking legal action. They are less afraid of rocking the boat. Some employees are coming up with creative survival strategies. In a corner of the EPA's large headquarters on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington is the National Environmental Museum, which opened last year. Joan Amorosi, the project manager, pointed to the top of a display celebrating Trump in large letters for signing a 2020 law that eliminates a sliver of greenhouse pollution. At the bottom of that display in smaller letters, it notes that Biden, who has done more than any president to combat climate change, designated a task force to promote climate change in federal agencies. If Trump sees his name there, maybe he will be more inclined to keep it as it is. For Europe and Elon Musk, EU expands investigation of X over spread of illicit content. The probe is a test of the European Union's willingness to go after X owner Elon Musk, whose geopolitical influence has grown because of his ties to the incoming Trump administration. The European Union started an investigation of Elon Musk X more than a year ago. Rosep view real and true information about the air pollution caused by indoor residential wood burning can be disseminated by any online podcast or such. As Rosep, a larger effort to suppress disinformation would also be helpful in stopping anti-scientific lies, among other lies, from overwhelming the truth online, such as enforcing the EU Digital Services Act described in the article below. The Digital Services Act in the European Union could also trip up Elon Musk and potentially stop Musk disinformation and illegal content currently affecting the European Union countries, including Germany, where Musk is attempting to influence the upcoming February German snap election in favor of the AfD, a neo-Nazi German party. Residents against wood smoke emission particulates. Rosep is concerned about Musk's German election interference because the AfD, neo-Nazi German party, does not believe in climate change, and Rosep would expect the AfD to be against German government heat pump rebates, which, for example, in the democracies of the United States and Canada, heat pump rebates make replacement of air-polluting indoor residential wood burning with clean heat pumps economically possible for the average United States or Canadian citizen of any income level. Excerpts edited by Rosep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, January 17, 2025. As Elon Musk's geopolitical influence grows because of his closeness to incoming President Trump, EU regulators in Europe have faced questions about whether they would scale down an investigation of X, the social media network that Musk owns. On Friday, European Union officials indicated that they were not backing off. Regulators in Brussels said they would expand an investigation into X for potential violation of a law called the Digital Services Act, intended to clamp down on online disinformation and illegal content. Officials said they had ordered X to hand over internal documents about the company's recommendation algorithm, as well as provide access to data that would allow regulators to study the platform's content moderation policies and understand why material on certain accounts may go viral. We are committed to ensuring that every platform operating in the EU respects our legislation, which aims to make the online environment fair, safe, and democratic for all European citizens. The Digital Services Act, passed in 2022, gives regulators wide powers to force social media companies to police their platforms for hate speech, misinformation, and illegal content. Companies that do not comply can face fines of up to 6% of global revenue. The European Union started an investigation of X more than a year ago, accusing the company of failing to address illicit content and disinformation. The probe came after Musk dramatically scaled back X content moderation policies. The incremental development announced on Friday has wider significance because it shows that European regulators are pressing ahead despite Musk ties to the incoming Trump administration. On January 18, 2025, EU regulators ordered X to preserve documents that could be part of the probe until the end of 2025. Germany election. Here is what the major parties promised voters. Rosep view of German public television predictions of the German snap election, starting at 33:18 minutes on this video, released January 17, 2025. Berlin Briefing Podcast. DW News. DW is a German public broadcast service. Excerpts edited by Rosep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. January 17, 2025. Berlin Briefing ahead of Germany election. DW political team discussed the big issues dominating the campaign here. Why the man with the best chances of becoming the next chancellor. Conservative is CDU leader Friedrich Merz. Why the far-right alternative for Germany is striking a more radical tone. Why the Greens have gone from pacifists to becoming the tightest allies of Ukraine, and why current Chancellor Olaf Scholz is sure he will stage a remarkable comeback against the odds. DW chief political editor Michaela Kufner pushes her colleagues Nina Hassa, Matthew Moore, and Julia Saudelli to bet their reputation on predicting the outcome of the most consequential elections this year. Chapter breakdown. Midnight minutes. Intro 3, 30 minutes migration, 10 o'clock minutes economy, 14:57 minutes Ukraine, 33 to 18 minutes predictions. Rosep view of German public television predictions of the German snap elections, starting at 33 to 18 minutes on this video. Relish January 17, 2025. Rosep view. The moderators seem to think that the CDU, a conservative German party, will win the most votes, and the moderators seem to think that AfD, the neo-Nazi party, despite its predicted relatively high vote count, will be rejected as a partner in any coalition government because of far-right views that echo Nazi Nazi propaganda of the Hitler-era ROSEP is concerned because the CDU may replace the SDP, which allied with the Greens offered more environmentally friendly government policies which, in ROSEP view, would more likely support efforts to stop indoor residential wood burning, such as the German government continuing to offer heat pump rebates or subsidies to allow clean energy heat pumps to replace air-polluting indoor residential wood burning at net prices that would be economical to the average German citizen no matter what their income level. 6. China TikTok ban. Will President-elect Trump stop the law from taking effect? It is unclear if Trump, who has previously said he will spare the social media platform, will or can stop the ban. President-elect Trump could attempt to instruct the government not to enforce the law, potentially through an executive order. ROSEP view. ROSEP itself uses TikTok, but ROSEP supports a ban for reasons of United States national security. Excerpts edited by ROSEP for brevity and clarity. And relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, January 17, 2025. The answer to whether President-elect Trump can or will save TikTok from an upcoming ban is unclear. Trump, who takes office the day after the Chinese-owned app is scheduled to be banned on Sunday, has previously promised to spare the social media platform. Reportedly, Trump also considered an executive order aimed at allowing TikTok to continue operating in the United States, but on Friday Trump took a non-committal tone on Truth Social. The Supreme Court decision was expected and everyone must respect it. Trump posted, "I must have time to review the situation. The law upheld by the Supreme Court requires TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance to sell the app or face a ban."